There's a moment in life when you realize you've been running, but you're not getting anywhere. The days blur together, the fire you used to have feels dim, and no matter how hard you push yourself, the spark just won't come back. It's not that you're lazy, it's not that you've failed, it's that you've gotten stuck in patterns, in expectations, in a story you didn't mean to write. Maybe you're stuck in a job that drains you, or a relationship that no longer feels alive, or maybe you're stuck inside your own head replaying mistakes, overthinking every choice, wondering when things will finally click again. Here's the truth most people won't say. Getting stuck isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that something deep inside you is asking for change. And change doesn't always start with a big move. Sometimes, it starts with a small shift in the way you see yourself, the way you speak to yourself, and the way you allow yourself to begin again. In this video, I'm going to share 5 things you need to hear when you feel stuck, truths that can help you breathe again, see clearly again, and take your first step forward, even if it's been a long time. Truth number 1. You are not broken, you're in a season when life feels stuck. The first and loudest lie that often rises in your mind is this: something is wrong with me. You replay the last few months, maybe the last few years, looking for the flaw in your personality, the decision that set you off course, the hidden defect in your soul that explains why everything feels heavy and motionless. It's almost instinctive. If life isn't moving forward, you must have failed somewhere. But here's what no one tells you when you're in that space: you are not broken, you are in a season. Life has seasons, so do you understand seasons? When we look at nature, no one calls winter broken because the trees are bare. No one shames a seed for being buried in the dark soil, invisible, seemingly doing nothing. And yet, when our own lives enter a season of stillness, we panic. We tell ourselves we're failing. We push harder, hustle faster, trying to escape the very rhythm that might be saving us. In truth, life's seasons are not punishments, they're patterns. Just as the earth needs time to rest before it blooms again, you may need time where nothing big happens on the outside, because transformation is quietly taking place on the inside. Roots deepen underground before the first green sprout appears above it. That is not failure, that is preparation. The danger of mislabeling the season: when you mislabel a season, you start to work against it. If winter tries to bloom like spring, it will destroy itself. If a seed tries to burst into a plant before it's ready, it will never survive. When you treat a season of rest, recovery, or rebuilding as a sign you're falling behind, you set yourself up for burnout. And burnout doesn't move you forward, it keeps you stuck longer. Instead, the invitation is this: name your season for what it is, not what you fear it means. If you're grieving, it's a season of healing. If you're unsure, it's a season of seeking clarity. If you're tired, it's a season of replenishment. Naming it truthfully shifts the pressure. It stops the story that you're defective and starts the story that you're in process. Stillness is not stagnation. Here's the subtle difference that changes everything. Stillness is chosen. Stagnation is resisted stillness. When you choose stillness, when you allow space, reflection, and rest, you open the door for renewal. When you resist it by forcing productivity, chasing distractions, or shaming yourself for not doing enough, you trap yourself in frustration. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is stop forcing movement and trust that life is still moving in ways you can't yet see. The inner work of this season, being stuck, isn't always about external circumstances. Sometimes it's about an internal shift that needs to happen before anything outside of you can change. Ask yourself, what parts of me need rest right now? What wounds have I been ignoring because I've been too busy? What truth am I avoiding because change feels scary? This is not about self-blame, it's about self-honesty. And self-honesty is the soil where breakthrough grows. Why this season matters more than you think. You might believe that the best seasons of your life are the ones where you're achieving, growing, creating, loving, and moving forward at full speed. But in reality, the seasons where you feel stuck often hold the deepest transformation. It's where you learn patience. It's where you unlearn unhealthy patterns. It's where you discover that your worth isn't tied to your output. This is where you learn to anchor your identity in something deeper than accomplishment. The truth you need to hear if you remember nothing else from this first truth: Remember this. You are not broken, you are becoming. Just because you can't see the progress doesn't mean it's not happening. Some seasons are meant for action. Others are meant for becoming the person who can handle what's coming next. You're in the second kind right now. And that's not a flaw, it's a gift. Reflection prompt. What if I stopped calling this season a setback and started calling it preparation? How would I treat myself differently if I believed this time was shaping me, not breaking me? Truth number 2. Your feelings are valid, but they're not the whole story. When you feel stuck, your emotions often get louder. Frustration, hopelessness, fear, they start to fill the room like smoke. And if you're not careful, you start breathing them in as if they're pure truth. You tell yourself, I feel this way, so it must be reality. But here's the thing, your feelings are valid, but they are not the whole story. Why feelings matter? Let's get one thing straight. I'm not here to tell you to just think positive or ignore how you feel. That's spiritual bypassing, and it doesn't work. Your emotions are signals. They are data. They point towards something inside you that wants to be acknowledged. If you feel lonely, it's telling you you're wired for connection. If you feel anxious, it may be showing you where you crave safety. If you feel restless, it might be whispering that growth is trying to happen. In this way, feelings are the messengers, not the rulers. The problem with making feelings the whole truth. Imagine a foggy day. If you assume the fog is all there is, you'll believe the world ends just a few feet ahead of you. But the truth is, the road continues far beyond what you can see. Your feelings are like that fog. They describe your current visibility, not the entire map. When you take your feelings as the final word, you stop exploring. You stop moving. You make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. How to honor feelings without becoming them. This is the skill that can change your entire relationship with yourself. Feel your feelings fully, without letting them dictate your identity or your choices. That means when sadness comes, you allow it, but you don't start telling yourself, I am sadness. When fear rises, you feel it, but you don't start building your whole life around avoiding it. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is moving from I am anxious to I am feeling anxiety. I am stuck to I am experiencing a stuck season. That one word, feeling, instead of being, creates space between you and the emotion. And in that space, you have power again. The emotional weather analogy. Think of your emotions like weather. No matter how intense the storm, the sky behind it is still there. The storm is passing through it, is not the entirety of the sky. You are the sky. Your feelings are the weather. They may be loud, they may be intense, but they are not all that you are. Practical ways to work with your emotions. Swan, you're stuck. Emotions can hijack your days without you even noticing. Here's how to work with them, not against them. Name the emotion. Studies show that labeling an emotion, I feel sad, I feel anxious, reduces its intensity. Located in the body, notice where it lives physically. Is your chest tight? Is your jaw clenched? This shifts the focus from spinning thoughts to grounded awareness. Breathe through it. Slow, deep breaths send a signal to your nervous system that you're safe. Ask what it needs. Does this feeling need rest, expression, movement, connection? Give it healthy space to express itself. Release the judgment. Stop labeling emotions as good or bad. They're simply part of being human. Why this truth matters when you're stuck. If you believe your feelings are the whole truth, you'll start acting as if the future can't be any different from today. But if you understand that your feelings are part of the truth, you can acknowledge them while still holding space for possibility. You stop being a prisoner of your emotional state and become a compassionate observer of it. The truth: you need to hear your feelings are real. They deserve to be felt. But they are not the map of your life. They are just the weather along the way. Let them inform you, but not define you. Let them guide you, but not cage you. When you hold your emotions with both compassion and perspective, you give yourself the freedom to keep walking in when the fog hasn't lifted yet. Reflection prompt. What am I feeling right now, and what else might be true beyond that feeling? What would I do differently today if I didn't let my current emotions be the only voice I listen to? Truth number 3. Progress is rarely a straight line. When you're feeling stuck, it's easy to believe you've failed. You look back and think, I should be further along by now. You see detours, mistakes, and slow seasons as proof that you're broken or that you're not cut out for the life you want. But here's what almost no one tells you. Progress almost never happens in a perfect, upward climb. The myth of the straight path. Social media loves a before and after story. We're shown the person who transformed in 90 days, the business that exploded overnight, the relationship that suddenly became perfect. What you don't see, the messy middle, the false starts, the long, quiet stretches where nothing seemed to be working. Real growth is not a straight arrow, the winding path filled with loops, pauses, and sometimes even steps backward. Why the zigzag path matters. If you think progress should be linear, every setback will feel like failure. But if you understand that progress is naturally full of dips and detours, you'll see those moments differently, not as signs to quit, but as part of the process. Imagine hiking up a mountain. The trail doesn't just go straight to the top, it twists, turns, and sometimes even takes you downhill for a while before climbing again. Yet every step, even the ones that feel off course, is still bringing you closer to your destination. How to recognize hidden progressions. The thing, you might already be making progress, but because it doesn't look like you expected, you're not giving yourself credit for it. Progress can be internal shifts. You handle a situation better than you would have last year. Increased awareness. You see patterns you were blind to before. Better questions. You're asking yourself things that lead to growth. Greater resilience. You bounce back quicker from setbacks. Sometimes, the work you're doing now is invisible until one day it's not. Practical ways to keep going when it feels like you're backsliding. Track small wins. Write down one thing you did well each day. Over time, you'll see the accumulation. Zoom out. Imagine your life as a 10-year timeline. Does this week really define your whole story? Probably not. Redefine success. Make it less about big milestones and more about consistent movement forward. Rest without guilt. Slow seasons are not wasted seasons. Sometimes your mind, body, or spirit is preparing for the next stretch of growth. The emotional trap of stuckness. One of the hardest parts of being stuck is the shame spiral. You think, everyone else is moving faster than me. You compare your messy middle to someone else's highlight reel and conclude you're behind. But here's the truth. You can't compare your day 50 to someone else's day 5,000. You don't know their detours, their failures, or the nights they wanted to quit. And they don't know yours. Why this truth sets you free. When you accept that progress is rarely linear, you remove the pressure to always be improving. You make peace with the pauses. You give yourself permission to keep moving, even if the movement is slow, uneven, or messy. And that's how you actually get unstuck, not by forcing the path to be straight, but by continuing to walk it, even when it curves. The truth you need to hear: every loop in your journey is still part of the journey. Every setback carries a lesson. Every quiet season is preparing you for momentum. You are not failing just because you're not where you thought you'd be. You're simply living the real process, and the real process is never a straight line. Reflection prompt: what would change if I stopped seeing setbacks as failures and started seeing them as part of my growth? How have I grown in ways that can't be measured on a chart? Truth number 4. You're allowed to outgrow things that once fit. One of the quiet reasons we feel stuck is that we're still trying to fit into spaces, roles, and identities that no longer feel like home. It's like wearing clothes you've outgrown. You can squeeze into them, but you can't move freely. Why we resist letting go? Often stay outdated versions of our lives because they once brought us joy, purpose, or security. A job that used to inspire you, a relationship that once felt safe, a dream that once lit you up. When those things stop fitting, it doesn't mean they were wrong. It just means they've served their season. But letting go is hard because we feel loyalty to who we were when we started. We fear what others will think if we change direction. We don't want to waste the time or effort we've invested. We've tied our identity to these roles. Growth means change. Every living thing outgrows something. Trees shed leaves, snakes shed skin. Even the cells in your body replace themselves over time. You're not meant to stay the same. And yet, many of us treat personal evolution like betrayal, as if moving on from a chapter dishonors it. But here's the truth. Honoring something doesn't always mean holding onto it. Sometimes, the highest form of respect is letting it go when it no longer serves your growth. Signs you've outgrown something: you feel drained instead of energized. You're forcing motivation that used to be natural. You daydream more about the what's next than the what is. You're staying mostly out of habit or fear, not joy. If you're feeling stuck, check. Are you forcing yourself to stay in something you've already outgrown? The guilt of moving on. Here's something important. Outgrowing a person, place, or dream doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care enough about yourself to honor your next chapter. You can leave with gratitude. You can bless what was without carrying it into what will be. You can acknowledge, this helped me once, but it doesn't fit the me I'm becoming. Reframing outgrowing as expansion instead of thinking, I'm walking away from something. Think, I'm making space for something better aligned. When you create that space, new opportunities find you faster. Your creativity returns. You rediscover energy you thought you'd lost. And most importantly, you begin to feel like yourself again, not the past version you've been clinging to. Practical ways to transition the season: acknowledge that this chapter was important, but it's complete. Set a gentle exit plan if it's a job, relationship, or project. Decide how you'll transition out without burning yourself out. Create a next chapter vision. Write down how you want to feel in your next stage of life, not just what you want to do. Allow mixed emotions. It's normal to feel sadness, relief, fear, and excitement all at once. Why this truth sets you free: feeling stuck often means you're halfway between who you were and who you're becoming. The longer you force yourself to fit into the old space, the longer you delay the joy and alignment of the new one. The moment you give yourself permission to outgrow, you open the door to possibilities that feel expansive instead of restrictive. Reflection prompt: what am I holding onto because it used to fit, even though it doesn't anymore? What would open up for me if I allowed myself to let it go? Truth number 5. You're closer than you think when you feel stuck. It's easy to believe you're miles away from the life you want. You look at where you are and where you wish you could be, and the gap feels massive. So massive that you start thinking, what's the point? But here's what I want you to know. Most of the time, you're not as far as you think. You're one conversation, one decision, one tiny shift away from momentum. Why stuck feels endless: the mind has a way of magnifying distance. When we don't see progress, we assume nothing is happening. But growth often happens underground, like roots spreading beneath the soil before a sprout breaks through. You may not see it, but something is forming. Your persistence, your small daily choices, your resilience, they're quietly building toward a tipping point. Micro movements that change everything. You don't need to overhaul your whole life today. You just need a starting point. Send one message you've been avoiding. Take one action toward your next goal. Change one thought you keep repeating. Even the smallest step can shift your perspective enough to see the next step. And once you're moving, the distance between here and there shrinks fast. The power of compound change. Think of a plane flying from New York to London. If the pilot adjusts the course by just 1 degree, the destination changes by hundreds of miles. Your life works the same way. One small adjustment repeated daily can change the trajectory of your entire future. So instead of asking, how do I get all the way there? Ask, what's the 1 degree shift I can make today? Looking back for proof, think about where you were 5 years ago. Back then, some of the things you have now seemed impossible, right? Yet here you are. That's proof that progress happens even when it's not obvious. Why this truth matters: when you're stuck, hopelessness comes from the illusion that nothing will change. But when you realize you might be just a few steps away from a breakthrough, your energy changes. You start showing up differently, and that creates the momentum you've been missing. Practical steps to anchor this truth: shrink the goal, turn a big dream into a tiny, doable action. Track the small wins, write down even the smallest progress daily. Borrow beliefs, surround yourself with people who remind you you're closer than you think. Act before you're ready, don't wait for perfect conditions. Begin where you are. The moment of shift on day, you'll look back and realize the moment you thought you were stuck was actually the moment right before the breakthrough. It wasn't wasted time, it was the final stretch before everything started moving again. Final reflection prompt. What if I'm closer than I think? If I believe that, what would I do differently today?